Okay, everyone, welcome back. I'm just out in the shop, and I've had the Bobcat in here for the last couple days, changing out those hydraulic lines that were blown, and it was just a bit of a nightmare to try and film and actually get it done at the same time. I was doing it in the evenings and stuff. But I've got a little time now, so I want to show you sort of what I did, and then we're gonna do a full sort of maintenance on this thing. So oil filter, fuel filter, air filter, new hydraulic filter, new fluids, all that kind of stuff. So you can see down here, I've got all the stuff we need to do that. So I'm just gonna run you guys through that process and show you a few tips for getting filters off and stuff like that. But let's jump inside. I'll show you where the two hoses that I had to change were, and then we'll get into it.
I'm Neil, and 7 years ago I quit my job in aviation and went to work building a house for my growing family. Little did I know that experience would lead to a second career involving construction, urban forestry, landscaping, and running my own business. My whole life I've been drawn to doing things myself, and hope that these videos inspire you to make being handy your new habit. Please subscribe and welcome to the show.
The two lines that I had to change, I'll just try and climb up in here. So the two lines that I had to change are down underneath this hydraulic filter, way back in there. That was the line that was broken, that top one, and then below it is another line, and they snake out that way out the side of the machine. And then once you get the track off, they come out to this final drive out here and run the track. So as you can imagine, it was, well, first I had to take the track off, then the sprocket, then pull the cover for the final drive, get the hoses out. But I went to a local hose shop, and they made me the two hoses. They copied them exactly, and it took them like 7 minutes to make them, and I think it cost 90 bucks for two big hoses. So I was really impressed with that. So far, the total cost of this project, minus my time, obviously, is 90 bucks for two hoses and a jug of hydraulic fluid and all the other filters I had sitting on the shelf. So obviously I'm not including the cost of those. So far I'm into it for less than 200 bucks. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna pull the fuel filter, and then I'm gonna pull and replace the fuel filter, replace the oil filter, I'll get the oil draining and then replace the oil filter. Then I'll do the air filter, and then while the oil's still draining, I'll replace all the hydraulic fluid that we leaked out when we blew the hose. So should go pretty quick, really. These Bobcat fuel filters have a little drain on the bottom of them, which is pretty handy. Open up this little screw too, and that lets air in the top. Or when you're bleeding the fuel system later, this is how you bleed it, through this little port. And then lots of people use like filter wrenches. I've always just found that a big pair of water pump pliers works best. Just get the water pump pliers down low on the filter where the metal rolls around, and you can get a really good grip on them. You end up crushing the filter a little bit, but if you're throwing the filter out, it doesn't matter, right? Okay, so there's the fuel filter off. The Bobcats are awesome. They have these drain hoses that go to the fuel or the oil sump. So this is like specifically for draining the oil. I'm just gonna wedge this here. Also, these pliers here, these Nipex flat jaw pliers, are probably the most used pliers in my toolbox. They're just so handy. They're just super handy. Okay. So now the engine oil is draining. I'll pull the engine oil filter. So on your oil changes, if you have an opportunity, well, if you have this style of filter that's on sideways, and this works for any oil filter that's on sideways like that, get yourself a piece of cardboard and score it down the backside so that you can bend it, and then you just cut it to the right length. Doesn't have to be fancy, but see, now I can tuck this underneath here like this, and I've just made myself, basically I've made myself a little oil sluice. So as I take this filter off, now I'm not spilling oil inside the engine compartment. So I just made myself a little sluice there. Now we put the new fuel filter on. Here's a little rule of thumb that I always use, and that's if I'm putting a new filter on, I take whatever fluid the filter is, so in this case it's diesel fuel, and I just lubricate the gasket with just a little bit of that. The thing that it does is it pre-lubricates the gasket, so when you can basically hand tighten this, and then as the engine heats up, it won't cook that gasket onto the mating surface because it's been lubricated. So it means that in the future it's a lot easier to get it off. So same deal with the oil filter. Just a little bit of oil. It doesn't matter if it's old or if it's new oil. I'll just lubricate that seal. And then with these filters, I'm just going hand tight. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to air filter. Well, it turns out they gave me the wrong filter. So these aren't the same. So we'll just have to run the old filter for a little longer. I'll just vacuum it out and we'll run it until I can get the right filter. Okay, so the next thing, I'm just gonna put the new hydraulic oil in. Another tip for you is when you're pouring from these big jugs, start with the jug with the spout on the top side when you start your pour, because then you don't get that glug 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 thing going on. You can pour a lot faster. So yeah, we're slightly overfilled, but I know that there's 2 hydraulic lines that need to be filled still, and there's going to be a hydraulic filter that needs to be filled, and we're only slightly overfilled. So I've got it about where I want it, just a swag, scientific wild ass guess. So yeah, it's a reasonable swag on my filter filling. Okay, so I just want to touch on track tension. So the way that track tension is adjusted on just about every tracked machine out there is there's inside here, there's a great big hydraulic ram. Basically, it's like that's all it is a hydraulic ram, and it's filled with grease. So basically what happens is you pump grease into the ram and it pushes on the idler wheel at the front or the back of the track system, the opposite of where the drive is, and basically just expands the track system out to put tension on it. So I had this off a couple of nights ago, and I didn't quite get enough grease in it when I put it back together. It's not quite as tight as I'd like it to be. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go onto this grease nipple. I'm just gonna pump. See, now that track tension is nice and pretty much where I want it. So it only took like 10 strokes to get it tight to where I want it. There is a way to check the track tension on these machines. You just lift the machine up off the tracks with the bucket, which I couldn't do the other night because the hydraulic system wasn't working yet. So I'll do that later, but it's pretty darn close to where it needs to be right now. So that's how the track systems are usually adjusted on these machines. Okay, so our oil is basically done draining, so I'm gonna put the cap back on here and tighten it up and start adding oil. Okay, oil's filled. It's set to the very top of the, like it's as full as I can, it's to the top of the dipstick, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Usually what I'll do is I'll fill it right to the top of the dipstick. We've got a new filter on, so when I start the machine, it'll fill the filter and then it'll come down to about 3/4 on the dipstick, which is right where I want it. So that's usually what I do. I fill it right to the top of the dipstick and then count on the filter eating about 1/4 or 1/3 of the dipstick. So now the only thing left to do is to bleed the fuel filter. Okay. Hi. So on the top of the filter here, the filter housing for the fuel filter, there is a little screw and there's a little bleed port right here. Not sure if you're going to be able to see it here. Yeah, there we go. A little bleed hole in it. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the cab. I'm gonna turn the key on, which is gonna start the lift pump for the fuel coming out of the fuel tank. And then I'm gonna open this until fuel bleeds out and no air bubbles come out. So I'll go turn the machine on and then show you guys what I mean. So I'm just pumping this bulb. There. So now you can see fuel's just leaking out of there. And you want to just pump it until there's no air bubbles coming out, which is sort of right about now. Tighten that screw up and then just pump the primer bulb until it's hard. Okay, another thing that I do when I'm done, once I've wrapped everything up, is I go to all the filters that I've changed, and with a Sharpie, I write the machine hours on the filter, so that way I know when the filter was last done. That's basically it. So now I've done all the filter changes, changed all the oil, the track tensions adjusted. The machine is basically greased, short of I think 2 or 3 fittings per side. So yeah, we did all that in probably an hour and 15 minutes plus filming, so it went pretty quick. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.